All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for coming to today's Keck Seminar. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Robert Tillman. Dr. Tillman is driven to re-engineer and modernize education and talent management. He has 20 years of experience building and leading academic programs, organizational development, and workforce training strategies. Dr. Tillman is dedicated to supporting innovation through the pillars of competency-based education, elevating talent to meet the constantly changing environment. As the Director of Education with the University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center, Dr. Tillman's focus was on creating results-driven professional development approaches in their educational programs. By instituting workforce education programs that go beyond clinical and research training, they effectively prepare them to enter global healthcare markets, as well as the modern economy. It's imperative now more than ever that we reinforce educational systems and anticipate and prepare for change. Dr. Tillman's mission is to strengthen their workforce and help young leaders to identify and pursue the opportunities that come with new discoveries within innovative tech-enabled landscapes. Currently, Dr. Tillman serves as founding member and chair-elect for the Texas Consortium for Faculty Success and as master mentor trainer with the National Research Mentoring Network. He's actively involved in the National Postdoctoral Association, Association for Talent Development, and the American Association of Medical Colleges. Dr. Tillman is regularly called upon to facilitate trainings on topics including academic training, design, and mentorship. And just a reminder to everyone, you can either put your questions in the chat or you can unmute at the end and ask your questions. So now I'll go ahead and hand it over to Dr. Tillman.
Thank you so much, Miriam, and thank you all for joining today. I hope this is going to be a very productive hour for all of you. Before we begin, just a couple things to mention is I'm sharing the house with someone, so you might hear a voice in another room. Hopefully it won't be too bothersome, but that's just life, and we're working through COVID and sometimes working with each other through COVID. The other thing I'm going to mention is if you do have a LinkedIn profile and you might be involved with LinkedIn, involved in such a way that you have a good profile. If you want to open it up and if you're in a setup where you can do that and want to follow along with some of these things and give things a second look, feel free to do so. And the third thing is, again, there will be questions at the end, a little time for show and tell, but if you have questions, within the presentation, like right there is something you want to ask, feel free to type it into the chat. Miriam will stop me and ask that question if you don't want to verbally ask it, but you can unmute yourself and ask that question. And I'm happy to take that question within the talk, wherever that question pops up and is relevant for. So I thought, let's get started. So, I really, for this talk, I want to kind of accomplish these few things. Is first of all, just to give, if you're brand new to LinkedIn, what is LinkedIn and how is it used? Maybe you don't use it that often. So just to give you a flavor for kind of how it developed in its original functions and its original functionality, and kind of, how it's being used now. And then I really want to jump into how do you create an effective profile? And then I'm going to end with some job search features. Some of them are new. So like LinkedIn being in a social media platform is constantly going changes. And part of it is just, some features are added, some features are taken away, some features are in one place. And then 2 months later to decide, well, I'm going to move that menu or that feature into another part of LinkedIn. So what I can say today is if you went in, created a LinkedIn profile or went to your LinkedIn profile today, most of this should still be true for you. If you're viewing this 3 to 4 months from now, hopefully a lot of it still is, but it might not quite be, but that's the nature of social media platforms. So let's go in and start, and then Q&A. So what is LinkedIn? So it really started as a professionally focused social media site. It started back into May 5th, 2003. I was just finishing up or just starting my postdoc at that time. If you're interested in a social media history, it was 9 months before Facebook began at Harvard. So it began 9 months before Mark Zuckerberg, and his colleagues created Facebook in the dorm room at Harvard. So it's been around for a while. The initial, kind of purpose of this was really to connect with other people working in your field professionally or set similar fields. So Facebook was like this wild thing to connect with alumni. LinkedIn was just about, well, what about all those people you've met and, you have their business cards for, let's create a way for you to connect in a professional way. And so it was really, and part of that original function was to message and stay in touch with colleagues. And just to give you an idea of LinkedIn in some numbers, this is from 2020, so the year that just ended. There were 722 million members in 200 countries and regions worldwide. A lot of those people were in the United States with 174 million people, in Europe with 163. But as you can see, there is a representation from around the world, and here are just some of the numbers. A recent caveat was in March 10th, I think unfortunately, China did block new members from China. And so I don't know how that's playing out, but like any company, you're sometimes bound up into the larger geopolitical issues. So that's the one caveat that I know about. If you're, trying to connect with people in China and they're not on LinkedIn, they're not going to be able to join right now. But again, when you think about 722 million members, that's a lot of people. When you think about a lot of these people are in professions, you're really meaning that chances are a lot of people are on LinkedIn. And also just to be aware of, because you can also create a profile in 24 languages as well. So again, there is a great base here. And when you think about this as just a professional site, you have a good representation. So again, maintaining connections, this is just to show you a niche. Was a graduate student with me at WashU. He's now CEO of Q Biopharma, which is a startup in the Boston area. And this is just to say what's nice about this is emails change as we change companies. Even your personal email might change as you go from platform to platform. But I can go back through the entire history I have with Anish or other people and pick up that conversation with them. And so again, it's a great way to really maintain connections across whenever our careers change and our emails change, and you can always stay in touch with people. This is like a showing how to do also alumni. So we've all been in schools. Many of you might be in graduate school, but how do you stay in touch with alumni, and how do you really capture your colleagues and such, when you are in a school in the moment? And so a great feature for searching alumni, and they had alumni pages at one time. How LinkedIn is doing it has changed, is you basically go to that search feature, you find your school, you type in your school name, it will list the things that come up. And on their page, you will always see an alumni tab. And we can go through this at the end, but when you click on that alumni tab, it will basically pull up all the alumni from that school that's on LinkedIn, and you can search in on that. So at Washington University, I was in the Division of Biology and Biomedical Sciences. I can type that in as a keyword. I was there between 1996 and 2002. I can type in that year span, and it will pull up everyone that it can find on those search terms and corresponding to them, and pull them up for me, and I can connect with them. So that's how, just the alumni search, and it's something that you might want to be thinking about as you're currently in school. And just to see, how does your institution show up on LinkedIn, I think is also fascinating. So LinkedIn has evolved, right? It's always been this social platform. I like to say it was a chance to put your Rolodex, and you probably even don't know what a Rolodex is. So it's like your contact list in your phone, putting it into a social media platform is what it was. But it's really evolved. And I think this is what's important for all of us to appreciate and to recognize and to begin to leverage, particularly if you're going into a business pathway. And so it really has developed a focus on corporate engagement, job search, and recruitment. What does that mean? Corporate engagement is companies are on here. They're reaching out with posts. They are reaching out with messaging. You can apply for many of your big companies on LinkedIn now. And so it just is a way that they're using to not only promote themselves, but also to find talent. Again, it's a place for you to also discover what jobs are out there, to explore careers, and to discover professional opportunities in general, as well as the potential jobs. So if you're in a job, ways you can get promoted. Again, it's a platform that external sources and recruiters do look at, and I'll have a number coming up on a bullet point soon. Understand that businesses and industry are really sharing the latest industry news and insight. And in fact, even some scientists are now. I was just reading kind of a breakthrough yesterday about how, T regulatory cells, it's very biological, but I'm an immunologist by training, that, T regs can go silent and they need a rest period. And I was looking through my profile, and one of my advisors in college was actually part of that paper. So I was reading an article through on MD Anderson's pages, but when I actually saw my post come up, it's like, oh, one of my advisors at Oxford was actually involved in that work too. So again, it's a great way to just to stay up on news and to find those connections and to recruit them. It's also a way to promote your own expertise, right? Develop freelance opportunities and engage your interest. And you do that through posts that many of you have seen, but we can spend some time talking about that at the end. And also even now, even though LinkedIn doesn't have this built in, if you get approval, some people are actually doing talks through LinkedIn. And so they use a third party, but they're able to go through LinkedIn and to share these talks with people. And so I think that's a fascinating thing that I've seen over the last 6 to 9 months that's available on LinkedIn. So let's just look at some numbers and again, why you should be on LinkedIn, or at least have a profile. Over 30 million companies are on LinkedIn. There's 20 million some open job listings at any one time. 90,000 schools are listed on LinkedIn. So that's quite a few places. Chances are your school may well be on it. If you're probably are, if you are in the US, and even if you're not in the US, your school may well be on that as well. 100 million people apply for jobs on LinkedIn every month. And I think this is kind of fascinating too. 87% of recruiters use LinkedIn. And if you came on and had a few minutes early, as I was telling Karen, over the last year, I've had 2 or 3 postdocs come to me and say like, hey, this person found me on LinkedIn. They're recruiting for a job at X company or Y company. It sounds pretty good. Is this real, and what should I basically be doing? So it's interesting to kind of see that it is building, that people are turning to LinkedIn to actually find good applicants and also get applications from people. And we will see when we go to the profile, one of the reasons is if you create a good profile, you essentially have your resume or even your CV pretty much on LinkedIn and visible to people. Professional opportunities. This is just an example of a post. So Jamie Rubin is a senior faculty member that I worked with when I was in my position at Columbia University. And she is a wonderful grant writer. So she really is, in fact, her title is Vice Chair for Investigator Development. So if you're writing a K award, or some type of early career award, she knows how to do this. And she has a great percentage of success. So for the National Research Mentoring Network that I'm involved with, she said, hey, I'm going to post this, Bob. You got me involved with NRMN. You told me about LinkedIn. I'm going to post this. And she actually contacted me a week ago and was just like, I don't know whether it was you promoting it to your people or what, but I had like this huge crowd of people that actually turned up for my talk, which is great because all those people are going to be much more competitive when they apply for those grants. So again, it was just an example of professional opportunities, how you can share. It promotes her and her success, and it also allows her talent to reach other people. Sharing job opportunities. Tasha Sims is Director of Clinical Sciences, Oncology at Ria Generon. She was a postdoc with me. When we were both at NYU, we were across the hall. She went on into industry. She is great at promoting every job that is available at Ria Generon Pharma. And so, it's wonderful because what I can do is I can share this with the MD Anderson GSBS, or I can share this with my population. So again, that's one of the features that it can be used for. And the job search. So this is where I'm going, you might have seen this side of it. But again, a lot of companies are posting their jobs. And what's nice is even if you don't have the paid version of LinkedIn, it gives you some interesting data. So Invitae basically is a genomics company. They do genomic testing. They're based out of Boulder, Colorado. So I just typed in, research scientist as a potential title and use this as an example. When you're thinking about jobs, what's nice is you can get an idea for what type of jobs, what type of titles are being used, but it also gives you data on this, right? Like for this job, there were 44 applicants at the, basically at the point that I was applying. It shows my connections if I wanted to kind of call and ask about, do you know people that are hiring? Could you put in a good word for me? Even just to ask like, what type of company culture does Invitae have? It also gives you a little bit of background. And again, this is a job posting. So this is one of the key things that I will, ask you to keep in mind. Move on. So if you have the premium account, and I'm not saying you have to pay for the premium account, but behind the scenes, if you're a recruiter or if you're working for Invitae and you're looking at people, this is what you will see behind the scenes. So for this position, again, it's saying based on skills, like what would be my skills match based for my profile, based on my current role and past experience. The more bars that light up, the more I'm a match. It said like, yes, it would be on the top 10% of applicants based on the profile. It says, of those 60% have a PhD. But this here, the top skills in this top right is what I want you to keep in mind. So as you're thinking about the skills that you would put into your LinkedIn profile, and there's a place to put that there, go through the job applications and fill out your profile, because LinkedIn will automatically, based off of your experiences, suggest particular skills you might have, which is helpful. But these are skills in the LinkedIn library of skills. But go through the job applications and start to, make a list of what skills are these job applications asking for? What skills do I have? And start to include them, because again, like any type of resume, screening process or CV scanning process, they're matching keywords and skills, right, with the skills you have. So keep that in mind. Be thinking about skills, that might be listed. If you have them, put that in there. And we will talk about how you can add to that. Great, you're saying you have the skills, but through endorsements, how do other people vouch for you that you have those skills? So that's the first thing to keep in mind. As you start to use the job and thinking about, as you start to look at jobs, get an idea for what areas you want to pursue, look at what skills are being asked for. And if you have them, start to include them, because that's going to help in the matching. I'm showing you the backside of it that is available if you have a premium side, but this is available to the people, hiring managers and companies, HR departments and companies, and recruiters will have access to this. And I'm just showing you what that looks like. Okay, so let's get into creating an effective profile. Hopefully you have something. You might learn a few bits and pieces, but the big thing I want to, by how I've structured this is, again, to reiterate, at its heart, LinkedIn hasn't changed much. And if you see the different aspects of the topics and headings you can put on your profile, you will see where essentially you are creating a resume online, or you're creating, even in some cases, a CV online. So let's dig into that, but I'm going to stop. Any questions people have right now? I just want to be mindful of burning questions. Yes.
In terms of the skills for the job site. So LinkedIn has its own LinkedIn learning system where you can go through learning paths and their own kind of in-house skills that are taught by others, posted on their site. So how well does that look on, and how well is that valued from a job recruiter's perspective? Does it depend on the field, or does that make the profile stand out more?
I would say it would depend on the field. You're absolutely right. As a PhD student, they're probably figuring like, how to use Microsoft Word, right? So it's also what types of skills, right? However, I do believe, it's just not how to use Microsoft, or let's take this, you're going to be vouched, right? That you know how to use the Microsoft suite. But it also goes into other types of learning, right? The learning is across multiple areas. So like, I think, like, let's say you're leading a team, right? And you took a course through LinkedIn Learning, which was actually lynda.com. So understand that Microsoft bought LinkedIn. So again, like it will bring in you can import your Outlook contacts through that, but they also bought lynda.com. And so there's some great courses on LinkedIn Learning that you can take. So, how to deal with conflict, how to manage a team, all kinds of things. And what's nice is if you complete it, that can show up in your LinkedIn profile. So I would say this, having something is better than nothing. Having the right types of training, just, particularly for an area you want to go into or for the job you are asked to do, always looks better than nothing, because it means that you've taken the time to basically learn more, to try to, prepare as best you can for the job at hand. So it's variable within the type of job you want. You're probably not going to find how to do PCR, and LinkedIn Learning. But if you are leading a team, or if you're wanting to do, like, let's say, an administrative type job, doing those things about how do you lead people, how do you more effectively influence people, how do you give a better presentation, those things I think do factor in. All it's telling me is you could have done nothing, but you did something. And in fact, you must have met some, minimum bar to actually get credit for it. So, and Leslie, thank you, Leslie. We have 4 great courses in our program using LinkedIn Learning, 10 hours each. And Leslie, is that for your postdoc program, your postdoc certificate program?
It is, Bob.
Okay.
Sorry,
Yes.
I had mouth surgery, so I'm not on you guys' list.
That's fine.
But yeah, and I can certainly share which courses those are. I'd be happy to do that. Easy.
Wonderful. That would be good. And if we have time at the end to go into my profile, as a premium member, you do get access to all of LinkedIn Learning. I know if you're at MD Anderson, having to be at MD Anderson, the library has so many licenses, and so you can check out the research library at MD Anderson. And probably
sorry, Bob. UT Health employees have access to any of those classes too. Sorry.
Wonderful. Great. So check. I mean, it's possible, if you're at a campus, check your campus, because you might have access to it as well. LinkedIn Learning. And it is great. Again, it was lynda.com, and they just basically bought everything and have turned that into LinkedIn Learning. Great. Does that help answer the question? That was kind of a little long-winded. But
Yes, thank you. So it makes sense, especially for certain managerial or administrative skill sets. Those would really make the profile stand out. Anything else looks better than nothing.
Exactly.
And
Yeah, and they have some really good people. It's nice to have the Microsoft backing because you have deep pockets. And lynda.com did a really great job. And I think just, merging this with LinkedIn in the deep pockets, you have access to some, great teachers and great, speakers, so I think it's definitely worth it for me, and for the type of career I'm in. So great. So let's go into creating an effective profile in the interest of time. So again, getting to know your profile. LinkedIn, which is nice, has really created everything. So beyond the search at the very top, you have your home. My network goes into a page that, you can basically manage, finding other people and looking through your network, keeping track of their posts. Jobs is, takes you into that employment site and all the features available kind of if you're searching for work. Messaging is just what it says. You can keep in touch with your friends. And again, the little notification will pop up if you've been messaged, as well as just the notification site. And just to appreciate that underneath me is really where, as you create your profile, you want to modify your profile. That's what you will click on. And so essentially, when I show you the rest of the slides as you're going through this profile section, I hit view profile, and this is what I'm showing you, what comes up. Work and learning, again, that would show up if you have access to LinkedIn Learning through the library, potentially through the library. Again, these two things show up just because I have paid for the premium service. And so those are two things that are added. So you might not see it. If you do on your view profile, what's nice about is in your intro section, and that's where your picture is, and your tagline, and other information. What's nice is they've moved a lot of stuff up here. So if you want to add a profile section, it would just be right there to add profile. And the open to work, we will get back to that, has been something new that they've added, new feature, particularly since COVID and the job market crisis. And we will cover that at the very end as well. But again, this is kind of where you come in. You can manage a lot just from all the stuff that is above the fold, I like to say. So let's go back this way. So again, that's how you get in. High level overview of key features. So when you go in to edit your profile, two things to keep in mind is that off to the side in this red arrow is where you can edit your public profile. Again, by default, LinkedIn is going to move most of the stuff in your profile into the public profile, but you can control what other people see. The URL is the ability for you to take the given URL that LinkedIn gave you and modify it to something if it's available. So I was lucky in 2005 when they made that feature available because I was on LinkedIn and early. I jumped on it. So my profile is linkedin.com/Tillman. And if you type that in, you will go to my profile. So those are where you would be able to modify those two things, and also where you add a profile in another language is there on the site. That might be important for those of you that want to keep in touch with, or have a presence within, a particular language because of your interest, or even from, the country you might have been, might be from. Let's move on. So this is what I like to say. This is where LinkedIn being a resume and a CV essentially comes into light. So these are the profile sections available to you. The ones in dark, I have a slide or two about, and the ones in gray that I won't have a slide about, but you can see where, again, this helps create a resume CV type of presence for you. So the intro section is where you have your picture, your headline, which is limited to 120 characters. So that's like your tweet that sums up who you are. It is also where you can, create your open to work. The about is your profile summary. It is important. It's not as robustly searched for or weighted in searches for you, but it's a way that you can articulate kind of who you are as a complete person or your interest to other people. And you have 2,000 characters to do that with. The about's important too, because it shows above the fold. If I was to open up a profile on my phone, on a laptop, on my computer, I am going to see about the first 350 words to that. Without having to basically scroll. So again, it's a way to capture people's attention quickly. Featured is basically the post you've created, shared, or commented on. Again, it helps to be connected and to, showcase whatever your interest is and share your interest that other people have shared with other people. But again, that's not exactly what, would be the resume or CV content. But again, right underneath that, experience. This is something that would go on your CV. This is where you would place your current graduate study, what you're doing as a postdoc, or any relevant work experience, or even an internship experience that you've had. Again, you can link relevant media there, either as a link. So if for some reason you were gave a video presentation or were asked to do something as a grad student, or during a particular job, you had something you would want to share with other people just to add your personality, add your expertise, and do that in a video way, you can do that on that. As well as for your education, you can link the relevant media. In education, you can list your degrees as well as activities and societies. Licenses and certifications can be added. You can manually add it, but if you take like a course on Coursera, or even some meetings will have that, it will automatically give you a number, and it will automatically feed the information in and post it in this area on your LinkedIn profile. Then finally, the volunteer experience. I'm not going to share that. It's very similar to your experience as well as your education sections. But again, a lot of people will put volunteer activities that kind of extend beyond their educational experience. So things you're really committed through and have been committed through for a time might show up there. Skills and endorsements. So this is where, right, when you look at the skills you've had, you look at the job postings and you see particular skills listed, and you see them listed for like a particular type of job. You know, it seems like this is one of those in-demand things. You can go in and add that skill. Even more importantly, you can have other people endorse you for that skill. And that looks great, right? Because it's not only you saying you have it, but other people are saying you have it. Recommendations are there as well. It helps as you go through, you've worked with people on projects, you know, to have people just, you know, talk about the experience of working with you or working for you, and writing those for other people as well. And then accomplishments. So this is something, it's moved down at the bottom of the profile, but remember in searches, you know, you might not see it, other people might not scroll all the way down and see it, but it will come up on searches, right? It feeds into the strength of your profile. But when we go through this, papers, you can put your papers there. You should put your papers there. Patents, awards, other things, and we'll go through that. And then finally, the interest is always at the bottom of your profile, the groups and organizations you're following. So let's go into the intro section real quick. Photos. Please put a photo in that looks that looks good, right? So a professional looking photo. This is just a stat LinkedIn gives. If you have a photo, you get 21 more times profile views and 9 times more connection requests than if you don't have a profile photo. So again, you know, we all have great phones with great cameras. You can figure out to take a good portrait photo, just create a good background and put up a good photo on LinkedIn. It will benefit you quite a bit. The other thing is this header. So the headline, if you enter a job or if you don't have job experience, you have an education experience, it will automatically add that to your header. I think as a grad student, maybe even as a postdoc, it's fine to say I'm a graduate student, you know, at X institution. But, you know, as you move on, you know, or even as a grad student, I've seen some grad students do that, create a header that communicates your value. You have 120 characters, a little bit less than a tweet, but it's highly visible, right? So putting keywords into that, you know, that people might look for or that, you know, relates to the job you want, can be very helpful. Again, it just, you know, increases your visibility. And again, it's above the headline, people will see that. The other thing, this is a feature, you can only do this on the mobile app, but in your intro, when you go to edit it, you can see with the picture, but you can record your name. So if you're one of those people with, you know, a name that a lot of people just, you know, do not pronounce correctly, you can add that and it shows up on your profile, and you can, you know, save yourself a lot of frustration, as well as the other person, the embarrassment of mispronouncing your name. So that's just a feature that's been around for a couple of years, I think, on LinkedIn. But you have to use the mobile app to actually, you know, get your name pronunciation in. Let's move to the about section. So this is that longer section. 300 to 350 words will always appear above the fold, but you can have up to 2,000 characters. I always like to say this is the narrative, right? So as much as a resume or CV tells me about what you've done, and even the LinkedIn profile will tell me about what you've done, this is a way for you to tell me a little bit about yourself, what's important, what you're passionate about, you know, what direction you want to go as a grad student. I always like to say, like, if you've ever worked on that elevator pitch, if that's been a part of a talk you've participated in, or a course you've done, here's another time for you to, you know, dust that off, polish it up, and put it in the about section. Again, it factors into your profile rankings. It's not as weighted heavily as your headline or everything else in your LinkedIn, but it can support those areas. I like to say it can be kind of used as a cover letter-ish type of thing. So just, you know, pay some attention to it. Don't leave it blank, add something. And in fact, here's just one simple example. So here was a graduate student at Northwestern University. I'll blow up this part about his about. And it can be simple, and you can all read this, but things that I like, he does have biomedical engineering. So again, if I'm a recruiter or a company looking for biomedical engineering, I can type that in. Molecular life sciences, nanotechnology, or medical imaging, right? Those are keywords he used. Medical devices, he obviously is in the innovation program. So if I typed in any of those words, again, his profile is going to creep up. So it's very simple. It is still a lot about what he has done. But again, within that, there are keywords he put in that's going to likely help him rise to the top or appear in searches. And what's also nice is he also wasn't able to include his resume directly there easily, right? Top of the fold. If that about section captured my interest, I can click on his resume and read more about him. Or hopefully I can look at the rest of his LinkedIn profile too. And a lot of that would be there. Experience in education section. So this is LinkedIn will automatically add, a nice, the emblem of the college where you're at, the years you were attending, but understand that this is the ability and the place where you can add more. So add bullet points about your accomplishments, experiences, and achievements. If you led a team, within your graduate work, if you mentored, 3 undergraduate students, you can put that in there. There is for your experiences, you can add that to the description. In the education part, you also have a part for that you can add that, but it also includes a part for your activities. So if you're engaged in clubs or other activities in college, you can include that. Again, you can add media. Here's just an example of a Baylor graduate student that I just ran across and I pulled it. So again, University of Pennsylvania, BA, the years, that's automatically given, but she included a couple activities she was involved in. So she was involved in student radio as well as a local Newman Center at the University of Pennsylvania. So again, add that, right? This is what you'd be doing for resume, a CV, but it can just be more than just about, where you went to college, what degree you had, and the dates you attended. So let's move to the skills and endorsements, because I think this is very important when you think about applying for jobs and having you really be found and pulled out and found to be attractive by recruiters. So this is mine. I just used it as an example. So a couple things, and this kind of goes back to the previous question. So LinkedIn now has that you can take a skills quiz. A lot of the skills are in pretty broad areas. So like, how would you use Excel? How do you use Microsoft if you want to take a typing test? But again, you can actually take this assessment through LinkedIn. And if you pass it, it marks you as being basically passing it. But again, here are some of the skills. And I think this is great because this is an area I need to clean up. I've been a little bit lazy about that. But leadership, is one of the skills I put down. Public speaking was a skill I put down. Higher education was a skill I put down. 67 people have endorsed me for the leadership. It's saying that 10 of my colleagues at MD Anderson, this is all automatic, endorsed me at the previous place that I just finished working. Public speaking. So again, right, it shows, again, how many people say, yes, you have this skill, and I vouch for that. And again, that factors into, this AI process, this algorithm behind, that is pulling me up, right, when other people are looking for those skills. If you look down here, what I mean is I haven't cleaned it up. I haven't said, I'm no longer in a research lab. I'm no longer a scientist per se, an active scientist. So great, thank you for letting me know I knew something about cell biology. I don't know as much about cell biology as I did 10 years ago. I should probably take that off. But again, this is a great place for you to think about what skills would you put in and how to get people to endorse you for them. So again, look at the job openings, thinking about what skills should I be putting down because those are the skills I need. What courses could I be taking to do that? But list them. And again, if you go in and just start typing in skills in LinkedIn, they have a great library of them. Python's in there, right? Cell biology was in there, biochemistry is in there, right? So again, they have a lot of skills. Just to start going in, exploring that and play with them. But if you have it, put it up. You can ask people to endorse you for a skill. So don't be afraid to go back to someone and say, hey, you know, if you would like, I would love to have you endorse that skill. And then finally, just to appreciate that based as you develop your profile, based off of your training and what, you know, LinkedIn knows other people with a similar profile like you have had, it will actually suggest certain skills for you to include. So that can help you get started. So that's the skills and endorsement section. The accomplishments, which again is really a lot of stuff that's on the CV. Sometimes it's on a resume as well, but the automatic heading. So again, LinkedIn is creating the ability for you to include this and has a way for you to, you know, link to further information on this. Publications can be listed. So put your pubs here. You know, publications are the coin of the realm. We've all probably heard in terms of graduate school, but it is probably your greatest accomplishment in terms of you being a scientist. Patents can actually be included. There is a formal automatic heading that you can enter patent information. Courses you have taken, you can include. Projects you have done with other people. So, you know, let's say you worked on some project, you want to add more detail to that, you can include that in the project section. Honors and awards. So as a graduate student thinking about, is that something I might include as a bullet up in the education area? Or maybe it was more of a broader honor or something that, you know, might get lost in that bullet, include it there, honors and awards. Test scores, you know, for certain types of tests that you might have taken, you can include it there, as well as the languages. So again, if you think about this, a lot of these are headings on, certainly on a CV. Some of them might be on a resume as well, but again, it just shows how closely LinkedIn really is just a different type of CV and resume for you. This is a publication I put in. Again, I wasn't too good about putting in my publications. Now I moved from being really at the bench into more of an administrative job. I took some of those publications off because it's like, well, it might confuse people looking at this. But this is my publication I have kept because it was looking at the research mentoring programs that the clinical translational science awarded institutions had. So again, I can put in the information. What's nice is with the other authors, you can link to their profile. This is also a point I want to make out. There's a lot of faceless people that don't have a LinkedIn profile. So Zainab there has a profile. She was one of my co-authors, but all the rest are more senior faculty that just have not joined LinkedIn yet. So just appreciate that a lot of academic faculty might not be on there yet, though I just had my thesis mentor, who is now director of the Cancer Center in Alabama, join LinkedIn, and he asked me to join him. So it's happening. Slowly it's happening. But just appreciate, like, you know, again, this is pre-made. This is, you know, an automatic heading. It will tell you what information you put in, use it. You know, particularly if you're going to stay within the science realm or where, you know, your publication record and evidence of achievement, you know, through publishing is going to be important. Finally, a few job search features, then I'm happy to go into my profile and we can play around with some things. So searching for jobs, this is slide 1 of 2. So again, you go to the top, you select the jobs, you go down here, and you know, you can type title, skill, company, city, state, zip code. If you can see this at the bottom, what I'm going to show you is a couple of days ago, I typed in research scientist, I typed in Boston, Massachusetts. And by typing those in, this is what comes up, right? So this is that second slide. So yes, the different people that are hiring are there. You might have seen this, but also right below in that top header is you can create a whole nother set of filters that are available to you. So from date, the experience level, if you're just interested in a particular company, you can select on that company. But just appreciate a couple other things is on that left-hand column at the top on that search, I have a job alert off. I can set that to be active. And so on my phone, you know, every day I'm going to get a reminder that so many, you know, jobs are available. Something new was just posted. So you can set job alerts. You can turn off job alerts from there that you have active. And just also appreciate that a lot of companies allow you to directly apply through your LinkedIn. And sometimes there's a very easy apply. And what that means is they're basically telling you, we're going to take whatever is in your LinkedIn profile and use that as your resume or CV. So just to remember, it helps to, keep your LinkedIn profile up to date if you want to go that route, just because it makes it really, really easy to apply for a job. Questions about job search, the initial part about that, anything around that. And it's very intuitive, but just to appreciate, again, there's 30 million companies now on LinkedIn doing it and using it. So these are the additional filters. You can set alerts. Open to work. This is something I have a personal opinion about and something LinkedIn added. So if you go back to your intro section, clicked on open to work, what you're going to find is this comes up, which is you can add your job preferences right there. If there's a job title you want to focus on. Again, it automatically pulled master trainer from my profile up. And it might pull up other things from your profile. But again, you can add a lot of this. You can see here, I'm open to remote work now. That was something that was added through COVID. When you start right now, am I flexible? I'm just more browsing. I'm open, but it might be 6 months, and the types of jobs you want. When you click on choose who sees you're open, you now have these two options here. So one is all LinkedIn members. If you select that, it's visible to everyone, and it will add this open to work to your image. I'm of two thoughts about that. It kind of makes everyone look the same, but it might be, it might be useful to you. And if you're a grad student or a postdoc, and if you're applying for the job, or it looks like, you have a lot of papers, chances are I'm thinking like, yeah, you're going to be open to work. But the other thing that might be valuable for you as you move into the job and you don't want, your current people and your current company to know, or you really don't want to promote it, but you want to let people know you are maybe interested in what else is out there, you can also select the recruiters only below all LinkedIn members. And by doing that, it will show your profile to companies and recruiters, and they make every attempt and effort not to have your current company let you know that you are casually or actively searching for work. So those are two options there. And then finally, a new thing that was added, practice interview questions, right? A lot of us, whether or not this is really your first time interviewing or interviewing in a way for the job, or whether you might have been in a job for 8 years and you're having your interview again, it's like, I don't know how to answer these questions. They have interview prep now. So again, if you go in, as you go into your profile, select jobs, go underneath more, they have interview prep. That is an option for you right now. If you select on that, it's going to take you to this site that allows you to do two things. One is it has a list of common questions for you. So you can click on that. It's going to give you, expert kind of opinions on how best to answer that. You'll see a couple examples, but in this blue box, practice and get feedback. So I love this. So either through AI, or you can, you can record your answer to that question. You can play it back for yourself. AI is going to give you, some feedback on it, like did you have a lot of ums and ahs, how long it took to answer that. But the other thing you can do is you can ask your network. I can send this to someone in my network and say, would you look at how I answered this, and can we talk about that, or could you give me some feedback on it? So I love this feature. It's kind of new. Use it. I find it to be really, really useful. So that's the practice interview questions. And that's really what I had. So what time do we have? 4:49. We have 10 minutes for questions. I can show you a few things if you have questions about that. What questions do you have? Or even what things have you used it in that you would like to share about features of using LinkedIn?
All right, I guess I'll go ahead and get us started.
Okay.
this was a really, really informative talk. So thank you very much. I was following along with with my own profile.
Okay, yes.
So you did mention, you talked, since most of us are grad students.
Mm-hmm.
So as of now, what do you think would be the best, I guess, part of the profile, maybe the whole profile, to focus on as grad students?
Yes. So I would say, definitely fill in, take some time to fill in the experience section for you. The education section, you should start to fill in the skills section because you are gaining skills, right? You're demonstrating these skills. You probably have had some even in your undergraduate experience. So definitely fill in those, get some type of a header. It's fine really right now if it says graduate students, it's not a killer, by any means, right? If you go back to if you looked at that example from the student at Northwestern had, I would say with the about, start to type in, think about that. It's okay if it's a little empty now, if you're a grad student, but as you start to maybe look for jobs, in fact, you know what, I'm blabbing about this, but I can show you a couple of examples. Let me go down to the very, very end and pull this up. Let me pull one up. So just a couple people, and I love this, and this will be helpful to you. So I am off. Let me go back and pull up this one and show you. And nothing to be, if this person's on, sorry, but it's public, it's LinkedIn. And so the point is you're getting your profile out there. So I'm taking the liberty of showcasing a couple people. And there's one person, a graduate student from Baylor, that I'm going to be pulling up just shortly. And I also loaded up another postdoc from Michigan that I found to be kind of interesting. And now let me go into, sorry, I'm doing double screens, LinkedIn, and share my screen for this, Google Chrome. Okay, everyone can see Corey, right? AG there. Okay, so let's start with Melanie Sweeney. Does anyone know Melanie? She's from Baylor. So again, great. She's a graduate student at Baylor College of Medicine, which is fine, right? That's her headline. But here's, a little bit about the highlights is, again, this is just because, yes, thank you. I know Rich Cyphers at Baylor. And so thank you for telling me that, LinkedIn. But the about, right? So again, the first 350 characters are shown, but it's just a little bit. I'm a PhD candidate with a love. Let me just see if I can expand this up a bit. I'm a PhD candidate with a love for the beauty of cell biology and a desire to improve human health. Recent projects include protein degradation, nuclear encoded mitochondrial gene expression, hematopoietic. And it's a little bit more, right? Now, she included her Clifton strengths, which is fine. But, just let me know a little bit about yourself, right? She's looking for opportunities for mentoring, team building, and developing the skills of others, which is wonderful to know. So I think it helps to do something with about. It doesn't have to be long, right? So from the example at Northwestern in this, it does not have to be a ton of words, but just something helps humanize you along with your picture. But then again, the experience. So the graduate student, this is what I mean by, you can add bullet points, you can add links to certain things, right? It just creates a more robust profile. And again, thinking about when you do apply for jobs or recruiters are looking for people, all this is feeding in, right? And creating this profile for you. She was a research assistant. So again, a lab assistant. So that's all her experience. But again, she has, just some nice links. So visually it's appealing, and I can start to see these connections occurring. This was her education. So she was the example I used with activities. But here's her volunteer experience. And again, what's interesting, if you look at that, she talked about, I have an interest in the about, right, of being a mentor, team dynamics, and building people. And now as I look through this, right, I'm saying that, she's a teaching assistant, and I understand she might have had to have been a teaching assistant, but maybe not for 3 years, right? I know enough that you usually have to teach maybe a semester or two, but maybe not 3 years. So, she's kind of passionate about teaching. She was a mentor to a Rice undergraduate student. You don't have to mentor an undergraduate student. And even outside, right, of Baylor, that I saw, that her experience here, that she was in the Newman Center, which is a Catholic-based organization on college campuses, that she's a religious ed teacher, right? So this love of education and training, is there, right? It just bolsters, right? Like any good resume or CV would do. It's like what you say you want, to do and what you're passionate about, you're backing it up with examples. And there's more experiences I could, bring this down. Skills and endorsements, she has leadership, she has lab, there's more here public speaking. And again, here's like the PowerPoint Microsoft, but again, she's had people, backing her up here. If you go up here, right? Shannon Morley, and I can look up these people and say, well, who are these people? Does it make sense? Were they colleagues of her in these clubs and organization? So they had that experience. Are they bosses, that might have a little bit more experience and perspective to endorse? Industry knowledge, right? So again, she's starting to fill out her skills, which I love. Other skills. And here's her accomplishments. So again, she's including them, right? The different awards that she's had, been nominated for, the organizations she's a part of, the publications. Again, with the publications, you can see here, there's the other authors. Look, some of them do have their pictures, right? And language. So great to know, like, she knows American Sign Language. And here's the interest, right? So, if I'm at Eli Lilly and searching for this, her profile is coming up. If I'm typing in people with that, it's going to come up for me. In fact, it's great to know that she has an interest in me too. So again, I think this is an example of a fairly good profile for a graduate student. Here's Corey, a very bold heading topic and stuff. So there I'm just looking, right? Like, okay, she's kind of bold. Let's see what her profile looks like, right? Because if that's her personality, great. But she's a postdoctoral researcher at U of M. She's a STEM diversity advocate. So this makes sense, right? This is what a scientist looks like. Okay, you're a STEM diversity advocate. She also puts herself as a keynote speaker. I better be seeing opportunities where that comes through, right, in it. Here's her about. Very, very short. This is her thesis research, postdoctoral fellow. So I think this is interesting. Her about, if I'm seeing these other things in the STEM, I would want to probably, that she's a STEM diversity advocate, a keynote speaker. I think she could add some more about that into her keynote because it seems to be important. That's in her headline, but the about is still very much focused on her research. But what's wonderful is if I look at what's featured about her, that she's actively involved with that community online. This is pulling up, right? I'm seeing that, she's very consistent in what she's looking for, how she's engaging in her activity, right? Comes up, in her activity profile. This is her experience. So again, the postdoctoral researcher comes up. She did put her PhD candidacy in here, where she talks more about, what she actually did in the lab. And she also had other types of jobs you can see here. And this is her education, which she kind of kept mainly to, the degree and the year she was in, and she moved more of the experience of being in the lab and conducting, right, the research in the lab as the experience part. So it's a different way, but it works. And then again, skills and endorsements, this is how she did them, and this is how her accomplishments and awards look. And some of her interests. So those are just a couple examples, but I would say, again, have something for the about, but your experience, your education, your skills, and accomplishments as you have them fill out. You should really be starting to do that as a graduate student. We have a minute or so left. What other questions do people have? Question.
I have a question about.
Yes.
I had a question about the featured part, because I think that's one of the more underused parts generally of a LinkedIn profile, but it seems like a really important part. So would you encourage people to show off their expertise by being involved in the social media part of the LinkedIn? So by posting and writing articles and things like that.
Exactly. Absolutely. So, I think, and it can be about, yes. So, if there's a group you're interested in, following other people, liking something, kind of like the equivalent of like sharing something, a colleague of you have written in an area. And again, you can see this all up here. You share this all as a post, video, you can create an event, you can write an article. But also when you were like, if I were to share something like that, right, that might be something that is featured too. And let me just see if I noticed as I was telling some people the connection, Mike Destin was a person that was involved with me, but let's see if this comes up on his feed. It came up on my feed. And again, he might have less of him about. But again, so the activity, so anything you post will come up on your activity feature. I don't think he has a features up because he usually shares a lot of information from other people, but absolutely, I'm trying to think who would have a featured, a colleague of mine that would have, let me do this. I just saw him, he just got Eddie Turner as like a motivational speaker in Houston that I know. And let's see if this comes up. He is, so like a highlights about featured, there you go. So he just was one name on the top number 6. He came in as number 6 on the top 30 list of global gurus for motivational speakers. So he posted this, I saw that come through my feed, but that would be featured, right? And so again, this is a way for him to promote what he is doing. So absolutely, absolutely. And it comes, between the about and his activity of which he's commenting on other people and post and liking certain things. This is what he is putting out too. And you can list. So if you have something you want to feature, and it could be a post of you, you can select that to be a featured item too. So that is an option for you on your profile.
Right. We do have a question in the chat
Okay.
from David, and it says, what are your thoughts for connecting to people that you haven't met in real life before? And should we have all the profile info viewable for public, or should we limit what is public?
Good question. So in terms of connecting, so just a couple of things of how you do that. So so essentially to be able to message, other people, if you don't have a paid, so if you pay for it, you can cold call up to 5 people. So they don't have to be within your network to basically reach out to them. Otherwise, you have to invite a person to be in your network, and then you can message them. I think it, like any type of informational interview, or even in in-person networking, like anything, what I like is if you're on LinkedIn, chances are the person wants to network with you. So it's about what you reach out to them to invite them to be in your, to participate in your network, or to reach out, say, why you would like to do that. And it might just be, I am interested in your background. I'm interested in this paper, would love to have you in my network. It's an area that I would like to continue in. So, let them know why, right? Why you would want them to be in your network and invite them to be in. The other thing is to look at their post, and, if it's just getting to know them, comment on their post, share their post with other people. I've done that for other people, and they've invited me to join their network too. So like anything, when you invite people to join a network, have a reason and let them know that reason of why you would like to have them in your network. And it could be, I'd love to be able to follow you more, and having you in your network means I can follow your post. Or maybe, you would like to talk to them about that paper or that project, or, what it's like to work in that company because they have such great experience there. And also, this also really helps, and what has always been from the start of LinkedIn, I think a very powerful thing, is you can see how you are connected to them. And so, contact that person, and say, hey, I see that this person is in your network. I would love to be able to do, to ask them, about a job, have an informational interview, know more about what working at that company is like. Would you make an introduction for me? So again, again, have the reason and of why you want to make that connection, make it clear to people. But appreciate that there's multiple ways you can connect with that person on LinkedIn, either directly, in some ways by either commenting on the post, having them see you and kind of, recognize you, potentially, directly reaching out to them to ask them to join your network, or using that intermediary of someone in your network that knows them. So there was a second part to that question. Did I answer that?
They just asked if we should have all of our
Yeah.
information viewable for the public or not.
Yeah, interesting thing. And LinkedIn is pretty good about this. So I would say what is on your CV, if it's on your CV, it probably helps you show it on LinkedIn. But I also appreciate that there might be reasons why you would not want to show something. And so I guess for me personally, it's hard to think about why there would be something I would not want to show on LinkedIn. But like, one of the things that, I know LinkedIn did was they actually have made it so where you can block your profile picture to either, you don't have to put one up, but you can also block it to certain people. So, it might have been, you might be in some situation that you don't want your information shared with certain people. And so you can set that up so where you can block certain information. But I would say otherwise, I really can't see, and I would love to know if other people have found a reason for this, why you would not show most of the information that LinkedIn makes public, or you could make public on your profile.
So I'll just give one more
Yes.
minute or so for if anybody has any questions. Again, you can unmute yourself, or if you're not comfortable, you can put it in the chat. So if we have, I guess, if not, then thank you, Dr. Tillman, for this wonderful talk. I'm definitely going to set aside maybe an hour or so and just kind of work on my profile, and I definitely suggest everybody else do so as well. So thank you again, Dr. Tillman, for this talk.
Thank you, Miriam, for co-hosting with me.
And thank you everybody else for attending, and have a wonderful weekend.
Be well, and I look forward to seeing you on LinkedIn. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Tillman.
You're welcome.